Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. Iraqi forces are making major gains in the battle against ISIS. Iraq's special forces are said to be gaining new ground in the battle for Mosul. Troops are entering the city limits of Mosul for the first time in more than 2 years. ISIS has controlled this major city, this major Iraqi city, for the last 2 years. So let's talk about what it means in the battle against terror, battle against radical Islam, and the battle against ISIS with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. He's a former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and he's now an advisor to Donald Trump. So tell me what's happening in Mosul today. Are we about ready to succeed in defeating ISIS?
Yeah, so we're making gains against ISIS in Mosul, but you're going to hear talk today about, we have forces finally entering Mosul. Mosul is a city that's, that's like Philadelphia. It's a big city. So you're talking about, this is going to take a lot of time as they get into the urban area of the city. The special forces are probably, the Iraqi special forces are probably the best military element on the ground outside of U.S. forces that are there. Mm-hmm. And there are the challenges that we have, and something that I firmly believe in, is you actually have Iranian-backed forces that are also participating as part of this element. And you have Iranian leaders who are on the ground from the IRGC, their version of the special forces, and they're working closely with the Iraqi government. So the mixture of forces that are participating in this operation on Mosul is making this effort slower, far more complex, and it will take a lot of time. I do not believe that Mosul will be secure, so there'll be elements inside or certainly staying on the outskirts of Mosul, but I don't believe Mosul will be secure for at least another 3 or 4 months.
Oh, okay. So when you said we, so who is the we? You said, no, it's the Iraqi special forces.
Right.
We have forces there. The Kurds, we know, have forces.
Right.
The Iranians have the Shiite militia. They have forces.
Right.
The Russians are involved in some way.
Russians are involved.
So is this some new coalition where we're fighting with the Russians, the Iranians, the Kurds, and everybody against ISIS?
So I mean, this is a sort of a mixed bag, if you will, of players who are trying to protect their own interests. So when you talk about Iranian-backed Shia militia, mm-hmm. when you're talking about the Kurds who are there, you have elements of Turkish forces who are there. So there's Turkish forces to the north of Mosul that are there, and they've been there a long time. Mm-hmm. Then you have Iraqi military and Iraqi special forces, and they generally work well together when we're involved. You have our U.S. special forces. So the coordination of all of this sort of ragtag, mess of troops, because that's really what it is very, very complex. The best that we can do is work for the U.S. forces is work closely with the Iraqi special forces and the Iraqi military. We will have some elements likely with the Kurds, but they will be taking care of their own thing. So the overall objective would be this nice, clean, we're going to seize and secure Mosul, we're going to return it to the people. That objective is unlikely to be seen for months. So we're talking about fighting in Mosul for the next couple of months.
So we this ragtag group, is fighting against ISIS.
Right.
Once they, let's say, several months from now, they defeat ISIS, they move ISIS out of Mosul, then do all these groups turn on each other?
Yeah. So what we're talking about is a continuation of sort of a civil war inside of Iraq and Syria, which is ongoing right now. And that's the civil war between the Sunni tribes, really, and the Shia-backed, or the Iranian, Shia-backed, by Iran, the Shia tribes that are there. What's called the Al-Badr Corps, which is a big element. It's about 100,000 people in that organization. So you're going to kind of have this back and forth going on. The big challenge going into Mosul was the preparedness of ISIS. So we've seen over 60 suicide attacks. You have what I would kind of describe as World War I level trench warfare in some of the places along the southern tier of Mosul. Mm-hmm. And what most people don't pay any attention to is there's also been counterattacks by ISIS mm-hmm. in cities around Iraq. One of them, which
Let me
was
ask you
Baghdad.
one quick question to finish off. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump has many times said, what are we doing there? What are our objectives? Why don't we just get out? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that we have to examine what our objectives are, mm-hmm. and we have to put more pressure on the Middle East and the partners in the Middle East to do more. They really have to step up and do more. I mean, what we should have been talking about in terms of a coalition of the Saudis, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, they're the ones that ought to be there in droves and trying to stabilize the situation instead of, you know, the U.S. is the
But
only
how do
game
you
in
get it? You know,
town.
I mean, everybody says it. Hillary said this,
Yeah.
Trump has said this, Kerry
Yeah.
said this. How do you actually get those groups to step
Yeah.
up? We haven't yet seen any stepping up yet.
Two ways you do it,
Yeah.
and there's two simple words. It's called leadership and trust. And I'm going to tell you right now, we demonstrate no leadership, and they do not trust us. None of those countries trust us right now. They have no idea what the United States stands for anymore, and they all believe, all the Arab nations, all believe that we've turned and made Iran our single biggest partner there. So this is a big, big deal, and I'm telling you, I've talked to many of these leaders out there, and they're like, we don't trust the U.S. anymore because you've aligned yourself with Iran, which is our greatest enemy. And Iran is still a country, you know, I say this facetiously, that their national anthem is Death to America. So, you know,
well, thank you for walking us through
we're in
that.
a tough
'cause
place.
you know, it's easy to just have the throwaway lines, and you've really walked us through a whole lot of issues with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, KT.
Former Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, former
being
Director
here.
of
Thank
Defense
you.
Intelligence Agency. And I'm KT McFarland. I'm signing off now, but you continue to watch FoxNews.com. Thank you.